Hello, this is the second coming of unbelief, and today I want to talk about how the religion of love has become the religion of hate. When I was a boy in the 60s, if you told somebody I'm a Christian, the automatic response was, "Oh, see you at the soup kitchen next week. You like to help people." The assumption was that you helped people who were down and out. If you were hungry, you could go knock on the door of church and get a hot cup of soup, maybe a sandwich. If your shirt was dirty, you might get a new shirt and a new pair of pants, or at least a clean second-hand shirt and pair of pants. And you might even get $5 of cash to put gas in your car to get to work until the next paycheck. That doesn't happen now. Joel Osteen doesn't let people escape the hurricane um, to hide out in his church until the hurricane blows over. Um, that doesn't happen anymore. And Christians are at the front of the right to life movement. Um, I'm sorry, but if you can't take care of the people who are already breathing, demonstrably here, they exist. If you can't take care of their needs, then you don't really believe in the sanctity of life. A fetus inside is not the same as a person who is demonstrably living and breathing. And how did all this hatred come about? I have studied history. I am not a scholar of religion, but I have studied history um, quite a bit. And to the best of my understanding, professional soldiers have been fighting with professional soldiers for millennia. And it was always the professional soldiers that killed each other. And just before 1100 CE, Pope Urban I said, "Y'all come and help me kill the Turks. They've captured Jerusalem and we can't make pilgrimages anymore," which wasn't true. And Pope Urban said, "Hey, don't kill Christians. Kill as many everybody else you want. And I'll give you a letter signed by God Himself forgiving you of murder. It's only murder if they're Christians. Kill as many of the others as you want." And that was where the us versus them began in my mind. And I've just learned recently that when Columbus came back from the Bahamas or wherever it was that he landed, wasn't the mainland, that's for sure, he went straight to the Pope. And I don't remember the name of the Pope at the time, but the Pope then gave Columbus a letter that said, a papal edict that said, if they are not Christians, then you can take their property, you can take their economy, you can take over their government, and you can enslave the population at will. They are not Christians. It is not a sin. You only have to be nice to Christians. And again, there's the us versus them. And there's always been assholes. There's always been slavery. For as long as ever humans, the strong have oppressed the weak as they are able. But it wasn't until Columbus got his papal edict that people started noticing, Farmer, whatever his name, Farmer Green, he had a Irish slave and a Polish slave and a Slavic slave and an African slave. And Farmer Green was an asshole. And he beat the shit out of his slaves. And his slaves ran away. And because the colonists, the village people in the colonies, were mostly from England or France or Spain, they looked like Europeans. So the runaway Irish slave blended in. The runaway Polish slave blended in. The runaway Slavic slave blended in. And the runaway African slave stuck out like a sore thumb. It's about control. It's about control. It's about getting rich. We fought a civil war. Are black people people? And the answer was yes, they are people, but people in parts of the Southeast made laws where it was difficult to impossible for black people to vote, black people to hold office, black people to um, do things that white people had no problem doing. Um, And in the 1960s, Martin Luther King and a bunch of others stood up and said, hey, we really are human and we want to be treated equally. And it was in the late 60s, in response to the civil rights movement, that Jerry Falwell Sr. began Liberty Academy because he didn't want his precious children going to school with African Americans, and there were others. I can't remember all the names of the other people that were involved, but had nothing to do with Christianity or the Bible. It had everything to do with we don't want our children going to school with black folks. And Jerry Falwell wanted more support. And he yapped and yapped about school prayer. And it just wasn't it was a non-issue. And he yapped and yapped about several other ideas that were also non-issues. So he started yapping about abortion. And somehow, for some reason, he was able to convince people that God hovers over each egg and sperm, and as soon as the sperm touches the egg, bingo, there's a human soul. Except the reason he began the Right to Life movement was never about his love for babies. It's about his hatred for black people. All the leaders of the Right to Life movement, almost all of them have had mistresses. They've had affairs, and the leaders have each of them paid out of their own pocket for their mistress to have an abortion. Please fact check me, but that's the facts as I understand them. And it's all about hate. And now with Trump, it's not even about Trump. It's about the license to hate everybody who's not like us. And they use the name of God to support their hatred. And somehow Christianity morphed from love everybody universally to hate everybody who's not like us. They changed the definition of Christianity on us. And so it's hard for me to put in words. I'm not anti-belief because it's hard not to believe in something. I'm not anti that there is a God. I don't see that there can be because of the existence of evil. How can a good God allow evil to exist and continue? So I have some serious questions there. But I'm not anti somebody else believing, but it's using God as a weapon. And I really object to that. I don't want anybody to dictate to me my behavior for their agenda. I have an agenda of things that I want to do, but I don't force everybody to go along with my agenda. I don't holler and scream and fuss and protest on street corners to get support for my agenda. And at the moment, Christianity has an agenda of hatred. God is good all the time, and God is good all the time. Well, yeah, but what about the kids that's starving in a famine? What about the kids that catch malaria? What about the kids that catch parasites? No, God is good to white Americans because he's not good to Africans or people in India or people in Bangladesh. God doesn't seem to be good to them. I'm getting off track. I hate to see God used as a weapon. That drives me crazy. God is not a weapon, should not be a weapon. If we believe, that's one thing, but to force our agenda on everybody else for control, that's just not wrong. It's not moral. The moral majority from my childhood was anything but moral. Had nothing to do with morality. Had everything to do with control and the hatred of black people. So, coming back to where I started, now that I've remembered where I started, the whole concept of us versus them is used to justify hatred and bigotry. And that totally rots my shorts because you cannot find a single syllable in the Bible that supports bigotry based on, yes, there was the Jew and Gentile and but it wasn't a mandate to hate. Well, I guess unless you're looking at Joshua and Judges, and then we're supposed to hate the Canaanites and Philistines, and the Amalekites. And those stories never happened. Those stories never happened. I have a hard time reading the Sermon on the Mount and the parable of the sheep and goats and finding a license to hate anywhere in there. And it really trips me out to see my classmates who listen to the same Bible teachers and the same pastors that I did running down the rabbit hole after the Right to Life movement and the Make America Great Again when I can see it's nowhere in the Bible. They're making stuff up. They're hating because how can you prove your love for God through hatred? You can't. You can't. You either love people or you hate people, and that's it. You can't do both. You can't do both. I choose love. I am not going to demonstrate my love for God by hating gays and trans and undocumented immigrants, refugees. I'm not going to hate. I choose love. I love universally, period. I don't want to see religion used as a justification for hatred. And I'll talk to you later.